You can see through the back of your head, huh? Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschachade Satarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. You're going to be able to see on that one? Okay. Maybe he can join you because you can see? Okay. Lessons from Ramayana, the lesson of departure, and the lesson of a big hero. We're going to hear some nice things about Jatayu. One of the first nice things we're going to hear about Jatayu is he's mentioned in a commentary by Baladev Vidyabhusan, who wrote a commentary on the 1,000 names of Vishnu Sahasranam, and he mentions his name in relation to Udharadi. So Vishnu is Udharadi. I'm used to hearing Udharadi as being of broad intelligence, but here he has translated as he is generous. So Baladev Vidyabhusan makes commentary on each of the words or each of the names of Vishnu. He explains that the Lord's generosity may be seen by the fact that he liberally granted Jatayu and many others the treasure of his lotus feet, which is difficult to attain even by becoming the most learned Vedic scholar. Same, it's a long explanation. He personally performed the funeral ceremony of the great devotee Jatayu. In this way, the Lord appeared before his devotee and showed his love for him. He not only performed the funeral ceremony for Jatayu. Oh, now you're able to see on his phone. Okay. Okay, very nice. But when he was about to perform the funeral ceremony for Jatayu, he said, I didn't get the opportunity to perform the funeral ceremony for my father, but now I'm getting the opportunity to perform the funeral ceremony for Jatayu. So he saw Jatayu like his father. And in the teachings of Madhvacharya, there's a deity of Janardana. You know that there were 3 deities that were found by Madhvacharya, right? Besides Krishna, Udupi Krishna, there was a deity of Balaram and a deity of Janardana. We visited the Balaram temple, but not the Janardana temple because it was a little too much out of the way, kind of southwest of Udupi. But there's a description in Jiva Goswami's writings of the meaning of the name Janardana, at least one of the meanings of the name Janardana. Here's Udupi Krishna, and a painting at least of his finding and then cleansing in the Ghat. And when the cleansing was done, the clay was taken off. There he is with a rope in one hand and a stick for the cows in the other hand, and it's a childhood form of Krishna. Is anyone here not familiar with the story of how this deity of Udupi Krishna, which was in a boat, a cargo boat from Dwarka, how was it doing in a chunk of Chandan in the cargo boat in Dwarka? No history? Okay, the history goes like this. When Krishna was born, that very evening at midnight, he was carried from the prison house of Kamsa to the other side of the river Jamuna in Gokul and placed by the side of Mother Yashoda. So for 11 years and 8 months, the childhood pastimes of Krishna, the mother, Devaki, didn't get a chance to see Krishna's childhood pastimes. And so when he left to go back to Mathura, taken by Akrura, he freed his mother and father from the prison. Already he's almost 11 years old, and they did their Upanayana ceremony for him because that's when Kshatriyas do their Upanayana ceremony, and off he went to school and so forth. So much later, Devaki and Vasudeva and the rest of the Yadu dynasty leaders were settled in Dwarka. They were settled in Dwarka because previously they were in Mathura, but Krishna wanted them to be safe from the impending invasion from one side, Jarasandha, and from the other side, Kalyavana. He was concerned about their safety, and so he had Vishwakarma construct Dwarka, and he personally transferred the entire Yadu dynasty and all their paraphernalia. That must have been pretty interesting, and settled them all in Dwarka. So Devaki, one time in Dwarka, who had not had the opportunity to, as the mother, to see and experience the childhood pastimes of Krishna, she made a request. She asked Krishna, "Is it possible that you could show me your childhood pastimes?" He's now not a child anymore, but he agreed. And voila, he assumed a childhood form. And he played on the lap of Devaki, and he was doing little cowherd boy things, and all of a sudden he just manifested again in his adult or Dwarka Krishna form. So Devaki was pleased, and her maternal affection was satisfied. However, Rukmini saw that pastime of Krishna assuming his childhood form. And so she later made a request of Krishna, "Can you make a deity form like that, and I can worship your childhood form?" So Krishna agreed. And he had this form carved for her to worship. And Rukmini worshipped this form for some time. After some time, it was time for Krishna's departure from the world. So he sent Daruka from where he was at Prabhas to go back to Dwarka and inform everybody that he was going to leave, and very soon the whole city of Dwarka was going to be submerged back in the sea, so they should take all of their paraphernalia and quickly depart Dwarka before it sank into the sea. And so Arjuna happened to be there when this all happened. So he took the deity, he carefully arranged for Rukmini to be cared for, and the deity was placed in a forest called Rukmini Vana, and was just left there. And over the years and years and years and years and years, the deity became covered in dirt or chandan. And nobody knew because it was just a chunk of chandan. And after some time, a cargo ship needed ballast for their cargo ship. Ballast means something that's really heavy at the hull of the ship, and you place something really heavy in the hull of the ship to keep the ship from rocking so much. That's what ballast does. So it was a ballast item for the hull of the ship. And then the cargo ship owner navigated his ship heading in a southerly direction, and on that particular day that he was passing by where Udupi is, Madhvacharya was taking a little journey to go from Udupi to the sea because he wanted to take his bath in the sea that day. And it's described that he, in the course of travel, he spontaneously in his mind, some prayers to Krishna were appearing, and he was reciting them again and again and again. Prayers to Krishna, and then later those prayers were put in a written form, and daily, when he was doing the puja of Udupi Krishna, the brahmanas outside the altar, they would recite those prayers. So it was prayers of anticipation of meeting Krishna. So a little bit mood of separation, but anticipation of meeting Krishna is the mood of those prayers. And he had this premonition that that day, somehow, he was going to have an encounter with Krishna. And sure enough, he did. So he took his bath in the sea, and when he was sitting by the seashore, he saw a cargo ship was stuck on a sand dune. So being compassionate, he took a handkerchief, it says, or some garment, and waved it in the air. And just by that movement, the ship got unstuck from the sandbar. Pretty mystical. And the captain was very happy, and he recognized this person, the sadhu, on the shore, and the sadhu waved him to come forward. So he came, brought the ship close to the shore, disembarked from the ship, and came before Madhva and said, I recognize that you somehow mystically rescued our cargo ship, so I'd like to reciprocate and make some kind of offering for you. And Madhva said, well, I'm a sannyasi, I really don't need anything. But one thing is, in the hull of your cargo ship, you have some chandan. That would be very useful. So the cargo ship captain said yes. And he arranged for 30 men to try to lift the chandan from the hull of the ship, because it was a big thing, and they couldn't budge it. So Madhvacharya decided, let me try, and he went, and he single-handedly he lifted up the chandan and carried it to the shore, and he now had a bunch of chandan. And as he was walking, the chandan broke open, and lo and behold, inside the chandan was Krishna. So that's how it got from Dwarka to Udupi. And its origin was Rukmini wanting to worship this deity form. The same history is not described for these other two, but they were somehow, the detail is not there at all like in the Krishna deity, but Balaram and Janardana deity were also inside. Some of you know who Jiva Goswami is. Don't sit right by the door like that, because it'll make it difficult for the next person that comes in late to get inside the door. Thanks. So Jiva Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis, was the most prolific amongst them, and Jiva Goswami, one of his books was Hari Namamrita Vyakarana. And the Vyakarana is a term that means learning or teaching Sanskrit grammar. And Nimai Pandit, after his initiation, who was a grammar teacher, he started teaching grammar by use of the names of Hari. Thus, Hari Namamrita Vyakarana. So that was the system that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used, and Jiva Goswami was such a scholar that he somehow learned what was that system that he used, and he wrote the book. Jiva Goswami, pretty amazing personality. So one of the names of Hari is Janardana, and this is what he writes in Harinam Vyakarana. So this Janardana has this phrase here. One who desires the surrendered souls to be in his presence as servitors. That's a meaning of Janardana described here. And he gives as the example, 3 examples. When Ram returned to Ayodhya, the painting on the left, he gave everybody an opportunity to serve him. He is Janardana, who desires surrendered souls to be in his presence. And Krishna did the same in Vrindavan, in the forest of Vrindavan with the cowherd boys. And he mentioned the same in relation to Jatayu, that Ram enjoys, or Janardana a name of Vishnu, enjoys being in the company of his devotees. So this isn't the nicest circumstance to be in the presence of Jatayu, but it was very pleasing on the one hand for not Ram, because Jatayu was such a devoted personality. And we're going to hear, at the very end, we're going to hear the conversation, the parting conversation between Ram and Jatayu when he finally finds him chopped like this. So how did they first meet? They first met way back when Ram was in the forest, in the Dandak forest. He was sent there for 14 years. After 13 of those 14 years were over, he ended up at the ashram of Agastya Muni. And there's Ram, Lakshman, and Sita seated before Agastya Muni, and Agastya Muni received them very affectionately. And he, the brother of Sutikshna, who Ram had met earlier, don't sit by the door like that because other people won't be able to get in. Nice try, though. I'm the guardian of the gateway, of the entrance into the assembly area. So Agastya did several things along with the wonderful exchange and spiritual teachings and so forth and so on. He gave many celestial weapons to Ram, and he also suggested that he should spend the remaining 1 year of his 14 years at Panchavati. So there's, as you see in the painting, there's several sages that were with Agastya. Here's that hermitage, and there's Ram and Sita and Lakshman and some other sages in his presence. And there's another scene of the same. They're parting, and off they go to Panchavati. And when they reach Panchavati, there's Jatayu. You see in the background, there's Lakshman making the cottage. And at first, when they saw Jatayu, they were worried. Maybe this is a Rakshasa trick and all of those kinds of things. But when Jatayu spoke, he made it very clear that I was a very close friend and associate of your father. And now here we are. How wonderful it is that we're meeting here in the forest. I would like to render some service, because he's service-minded. He said, at night or at other times during the day, when you may be away from the cottage, then I would like to have the service of protecting Sita. So it's like a father figure in the forest. And you see lovingly how both Ram and Sita are appreciating his mood. The genealogy, a little bit given in Ramayana. Kashyapa. Who's Kashyapa? Who's Kashyapa? Who knows who Kashyapa is? Huh? Huh?
Brahmaji's son.
Yes. One of the direct sons of Lord Brahma. Very good. Kashyapa Muni. So Kashyapa Muni was given wives to marry, and one of those wives was Vinita, and Vinita gave birth to two sons, Garuda and Aruna. And how embarrassing. If you have a phone and it's going to ring, do the needful before it rings, because you might be embarrassed if it happens otherwise. My phone's already off. Okay. So, Aruna. Aruna is, one of the names of Aruna is dawn, right? Udila Aruna Puragabhaje So that's a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So it's Aruna is the chariot driver of the sun. And Aruna, the chariot driver of the sun, had 2 children, Jatayu and Sampati. They're sons of Aruna. Don't sit by the door. Thank you. So there you see, it's not exactly what a vulture looks like, but that's okay. There's Jatayu overseeing. There's Sita, Ram, and Lakshman doing his service of protecting them. And here's a nice painting where Lakshman is preparing food for Ram. And, throughout their activities, the final was intended to be the final year. They were at this cottage built by Lakshman at Panchavati. And there's Jatayu in the front again. And there he is over on the left. Always doing something, and he being on guard. Then comes this situation where Shurpanakha comes on the scene. Now, there's the cottage, there's Ram, there's Lakshman, and there's Sita, and there's Jatayu. So all the while, we don't always see Jatayu in the paintings like these, but he was watching as Shurpanakha came and requested Ram to marry her. We already heard about this, so we're going quickly. And there's Ram gesturing instead, you should approach Lakshman. So she very brazenly went to Lakshman and said, please marry me. And he said, oh, I'm unworthy of such a beautiful person as you. You should go back to my brother, Ram. And when she decided to kill Sita because she was the obstacle for her being with Ram, Ram shouted loudly and ordered Lakshman, stop her. So he stopped her. And the painting is showing there's Ram and Sita in their cottage, and there's Lakshman cutting off her nose and ears. And she transformed herself from the beautiful Shurpanakha form, because she was a shape-changing demoness. She took her demon-like form shown in this painting. And there's Lakshman punishing Shurpanakha because she was going to harm Sita, not just harm her, but kill her. And there's another B.G. Sharma painting showing the same. So what did she do? She went back, bloodied, and screaming, and wailing, and Kara, who was one of the generals of Ravana's army, the leader of the entire force in Dandak forest, asked her, stop screaming, what happened? She said what happened. And so he immediately sent 14 generals of his army to go fight against Ram and destroy Ram for harming his sister. But it wasn't Ram that harmed his sister, but in any case, there you see in the upper left, as the generals were coming, Ram sent Lakshman to guard Sita in a cave up on the hillside, while he personally dealt with the 14 generals of Kara, and single-handedly they were all destroyed. And when that news came back to Kara then sent 3 additional generals and 14,000 soldiers. Those 3 generals, their names are given here. Kapila, anyway, Pramati, and Stulaksha. Ram killed the 3 more generals. You can see the Arabic letters on the right. I've mentioned this several times, but the ruling Muslim rulers or leaders, administrators, they really liked Ramayana. I mean, it's likable by anybody, anywhere, in any culture. And this is one of their paintings. And they make the demons look really interesting. Not only she's got polka dots, she's got big horns and wings, and so that's one of the generals. And Ram finished him. And when those generals were all killed, Kara was in disbelief, so he brought 14,000. Is that the right number? 14,000. 14,000 soldiers. And single-handedly, Ram stood his ground and killed them all, including Kara and Trishiras. And there was one remaining soldier left that was Akampana, and Akampana was somehow related to Ravana, and he went back and informed Ravana what happened in the forest. There's Trishiras, he has 3 heads, an interesting looking body. And here's Ram killing Kara. Now I can't, every time I narrate this part of Ramayana, it's like, who would name their son Kara? But that was his name. Anyway, finished. So Akampana returned to Ayodhya, to Lanka, and informed Ravana of his brothers. It says his brothers is not one of his blood brothers, but relative brothers, like the Kauravas and the Pandavas were brothers, so his direct relative. Kara was now dead. And there's the 10-headed, 20-armed Ravana, and the very interesting-looking Akampana giving him the story. So what to do. Ravana decided he would go to his mystical friend, Maricha, and explain to Maricha what happened. And he wanted his help and his advice. And the painting is showing that Maricha is very thoughtful, and Maricha is remembering his encounter with Ram and describing how powerful was Ram. Don't underestimate. This is what happened. He told the whole story. And by one arrow, he sent me sailing in the air, 800 yojanas. That's a big distance. Landed in the sea, and he then came back to be with Ravana, and then now living in the forest as in a hermitage. So Ravana reconsidered his plan. So he went back to Lanka, and when he went back to Lanka, the painting shows there's Shurpanakha, all bloodied, and wailing and screaming and demanding that her elder brother seek revenge. And he suggested the way for him to seek revenge was to kidnap Sita. She knew her brother, lusty fellow, and she described the beauty of Sita. And Ravana went, whoa, let me get Sita. So how to get Sita? So the bottom of the painting, you see Ravana is now departing Lanka to go again visit Maricha. So upon visiting Maricha, he then makes his request again a little stronger. The second request was more of a demand. And Maricha did his best to dissuade him. It's a very foolish plan. And Ravana decided, look, either you do what I'm asking, or I'll kill you. Take your choice. And Maricha said, better to be killed by Ram than you. So I'll do what you said. So then he revealed his plan. This was Ravana's plan. And Ravana's plan was, you're well known as being a shape-changing personality. You're well known, in fact, by being able to assume a form of golden deer, and a golden deer that's very mystical looking, like rainbow in colors and keeps changing colors. And so if you go to where Sita is and make deer sounds and motions and so forth, she'll want to have you, and you lure Ram into the forest, and when Ram's away, then I can capture Sita. His plan was to capture Sita. So this painting shows he mystically transformed himself from Maricha into a golden deer, and here they are at Panchavati taking their meal together, and when they finished their meal, sure enough, there's the golden deer. And she was very attracted to the golden deer. There's verses and verses and verses, which I haven't put here because it's another topic, but specifically the verses she spoke where never before had Sita expressed a desire separate from Ram's desire, but this was one. So there she is pointing to the deer, saying, go get him. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? And Lakshman is in a little disbelief. Here is another painting of the same thing. And Lakshman then spoke. And Lakshman said, that's not a deer. Who's ever seen a deer that looks like that? That's not a deer. That's a Rakshasa. So this is a trick. Don't go for it. And we heard already, Sita, for her first mistake was a desire separate. The second mistake was ignoring Lakshman, and somehow she managed to persuade Ram to go get the deer. So off he goes to get the deer, saying, no worries, if it's just a Rakshasa trick, then I'll kill him. And if there's some danger, what Rakshasa can harm me? And so, sure enough, he went. And you see in the upper part of the painting, that's Lakshman and Sita, because Lakshman was left with very specific instructions to guard Sita. Now, in addition to Lakshman, there was Jatayuś, right? So, here they are. Ram is going after the deer. Finally, he understood this is not just a deer, it's a Rakshasa. He shot his arrow. And when he hit the deer died, but on his parting breath, it was Maricha, he called out loudly in a voice sounding like Ram's, Lakshman, Sita, help. Loud enough so that all over the forest the voice could be heard. Sita heard the voice. There's on the left side, he's chasing the deer. On the center, he's going after the deer. And here on this painting, he's shooting the deer. And hearing that sound that was sounding like Ram's voice, he was shape-changing, and he had a big broadcasting system. Loud enough that from some distance away, everyone could hear, and it sounded just like Ram. It's a very capable, mystic person. Killed by Ram, just what he wanted. And so Sita insisted, you know the story, Sita insisted that Lakshman go. Lakshman didn't go. Why aren't you going? Then she deduced wrongly, because her mentality was already twisted, that you want to be, and all along you've been in the forest as if you're going to protect me and Ram. Your only interest was to become an enjoyer of me, and now is your opportunity. That's why you don't want to go. How abominable, you're a wretch, and calling him names and attributing bad motives, and he didn't budge. He said, Ram said, stay here. I'm staying here. It's a Rakshasa trick. I don't, but she continued to insult him badly, which was not very nice, very detrimental. And she said, I'll take my own life if you don't go. So he went. before he went, different than Valmiki Ramayana is this Lakshman Rekha. He drew a line with his bow and instructed Sita, just don't step outside of this circle and you'll be all right. And somehow Ravana came after that, dressed like a mendicant Brahmin, and Sita, being a cultured lady, wanted to do the right thing and wanted to give some refreshments to this, in some service to this nice Brahmin who's off there in the forest. There in this painting, it shows both Lakshman and Ram shooting at the deer, but that's not what happened. And there's at the bottom, he's got a very nicely dressed Brahmin or sadhu. And there's Sita ready to offer some service. And if you look very closely, there's the circle on the ground. It doesn't show up here, but it shows up here. And so he arranged for her to step outside the circle so he could grab her. And she's shocked by the language that he's using to speak to her. And he requests her to come with him. Of course, she refuses. And so he grabs Sita by the arm. Sometimes it's said he grabbed her by the hair. And he whisked her away. Now, Jatayu is there to give protection. Here it shows with one of his hands, he's grabbing her hair. And as he's trying to take Sita away, there's Jatayu to the rescue. In the background, it shows Jatayu being, with his wings already chopped. But that didn't happen just yet, because he's got this chariot, and there's a battle between Ravana and Jatayu. Now, Ravana is so powerful that Jatayu is going to lose, but Jatayu is very virtuous and in the mood of being in service to Ram and Sita. So I'm just going to read the section where Jatayu speaks to Ravana, instructing him or urging him to stop this sinful activity of stealing another man's wife. Sri Ram is the king of the entire world. Like Indra and Varuna are, fixed in benevolence to others. Are you, and you desire to kidnap the wife of such a king? You, being a king yourself, how is it that you desire to lay hands on another king's wife? A queen must particularly be protected. Give up this lowly mentality of abducting someone else's wife. Such acts are deplorable. A thoughtful person will protect others' wives just as one would protect one's own. Dharma, artha, kama are prescribed by learned men because these are not obvious in Scripture. A king must follow these from such sages. O son of Pulastya. He's not Pulastya's son, but descendant of Pulastya. Grandson Pulastya. A king is the storehouse of Dharma, Artha, and Kama. These qualities arise from him. You are sinful and whimsical, O king of the demons. It is because of your sinful acts you have gained this airplane that can take one to higher realms. That's his stepbrother, Kuvera, was the one who he got the Pushpaka Vimana from. It is not easy for one to erase their nature. Prosperity achieved from sinful actions does not stay long with such a person. Sri Ram has not offended your country, your city, or even you. Why then are you offending the mighty and righteous Ram? It was Shurpanaka's and Kara's fault for trespassing in Janastan. and Sri Ram killed him without much effort. Why then are you kidnapping his wife for no mistake of his own? Give up Sita Devi immediately. Do not call upon yourself the wrath of Sri Ram's fiery glance, which can burn you up completely, just like Indra's thunderbolt finished Vritrasura. Sounds like he reads the Bhagavatam. You are unaware that you have tied a highly venomous serpent to the end of your cloth, and you cannot see the noose of death around your neck. One should only carry weight that one can bear without tiring. One should only eat as much as one can digest without falling ill. Who will act in a way that does not bring about dharma, nor popularity or fame, but just degradation of the body? O Ravana, I have dedicated myself to serving my father and forefathers for 60,000 years. He's doesn't give his birth date, but 60,000 years is different age. Treta Yuga. I am old while you are equipped with bow and arrows on a chariot and fully armored. Yet you will not be able to safely take Sita away from me, from here. You cannot forcibly take away Sita Devi under my watch, just as logic and reasoning cannot defy the definitive Vedas and scriptures. It's a long speech. While he's flying around and Jatayu's got a hold of Sita. If you are valiant enough, stay a while and fight with me. You will soon lay on the ground dead, just as Kara did. Sri Ram, who seems meek because he wears jute clothes, will easily kill you because he has killed many demons and Rakshasas many times. I must definitely stop you, even at the cost of my own life, from taking away this lotus-eyed wife of Sri Ram. This is what Sri Ram would like, and so would Dasarath. I will pluck you from your excellent chariot as easily as one plucks a ripened fruit from its node. Just wait a moment. I invite you for a duel. Oh, Rakshasa. It's quite a long speech. But Ravana wasn't moved. They did battle, and many things happened. You'll see in the paintings as we go along. Jatayu was old, but he was very powerful. And with his power, he was able to break apart the chariot. And as the chariot fell to the ground crashing, there was a further battle. This is showing he's fighting. He's so big, he's able to pick up the mules that were transporting Ravana and put them in the claws of his big body. That's a nice painting. There's 10-headed Ravana, poor Sita, way in the back there, and big battle going on in the air, and eventually, with his sharp sword, Ravana cut off the wings of Jatayu, one and then the next, and the chariot was already broken, so he managed to travel without his chariot. This painting shows the broken chariot and is chopping the wings of Jatayu. And over on the right side, there's Sita flying over Rishamukh mountain. And there we see Sita dropping her jewels and ornaments in a cloth, hoping that later when Ram comes to look for her, he will find the direction that he was traveling in, as well as the jewels. So this is showing all of that in one painting. It's a B.G. Sharma painting. There's Sita tossing the jewels over the side. So in the course of finding out that Sita had been kidnapped, there was this, we already discussed this, Ram was in great, great, great sorrow. He was very unhappy with Lakshmana, and together they searched and searched and searched, and eventually they came upon Jatayu, bloodied, lying on the ground after battling with Ravana. I'm going to read there's a whole long section of what Jatayu spoke and the exchange between them. So, the two princes continued to walk south, discussing what to do. Soon they came upon Jatayu lying upon the ground. Seeing from a distance the mountainous bird drenched in blood, Ram exclaimed, "Lakshman, here is a Rakshasa in the guise of a bird. Surely this beast has devoured Sita. I shall make short work of it with my fiery arrows." Ram fitted a razor-headed arrow to his bow and bounded toward Jatayu, but as soon as he recognized the great bird, he lowered his weapon. Jatayu, close to death, saw Ram coming and raised his head. Vomiting blood, he spoke in a strained voice, "O Ram, the godly Sita, and indeed my life have both been snatched away by Ravana. I flew to her assistance and fought with the demon. Although I smashed his chariot and killed his horses, I was finally cut down by him." Jatayu then described what had taken place. Upon hearing his story, Ram fell, weeping, to the ground. He embraced Jatayu and stroked his head. In great pain, Ram cried out, "Alas! Who is more unfortunate than I? My sovereignty is lost. I am exiled. My wife is stolen. And now my father's friend lies mortally wounded, having tried his best to help me." Ram questioned Jatayu, "Where did Ravana take Sita? What did she say as she was being dragged away? How powerful was the Rakshasa, and where was his abode?" Ram spoke wildly in a tearful voice. Jatayu looked at him fondly. Speaking in barely a whisper, he replied, "The demon conjured up a storm as he flew in the sky. As I contended with him, I soon became exhausted. Being old and worn out, he then lopped off my wings. He sped away with his face pointing south." Jatayu looked at him fondly. Speaking in barely a whisper, he replied, "The bird lay gasping. He reassured Ram that Sita would soon be found. The Rakshasa had kidnapped her at an hour which was favorable for her return." That's what it says on the screen, the Vindhya hour. Vinda hour. Although he knew it not, Jatayu said it was the Vinda hour according to scripture. A treasure lost during that time is again recovered. Jatayu told Ram that Ravana was the son of the sage Vishrava and the half-brother of Kuvera. Although he was immensely powerful, Ram would soon slay him. Jatayu was sure of it. As the old bird spoke, he felt his life departing, blood flowing continuously from his mouth. He looked at Ram with tears in his eyes, repeating Ram's name over and over. Jatayu gradually became silent. His head fell to the ground, and his body slumped back. Ram stood with folded hands, looking at his father's dear friend. He cried out in anguish, "Speak more, O noble bird, speak more." But Jatayu was dead. Ram gazed at him sorrowfully. Turning to Lakshman, he said, "Alas, this bird has laid down his life for my sake, dear brother. It is clear that valiant souls who practice piety and virtue are found even in the lower species of life, and not just among humans. The pain of seeing this vulture's death afflicts me as much as that caused by Sita's loss." Ram considered Jatayu to be as worthy of his worship as Dasarath. He asked Lakshman to fetch logs so that they could build a funeral pyre. Ram looked at the bird and said, "You will attain unsurpassed realms of happiness, O king of birds. Never again will you take birth in this mortal world of pain and suffering." The brothers placed Jatayu on the wood pile and set it alight. Ram personally recited the sacred mantras and performed the ritual, circumambulating Jatayu as he would his own relative. Both brothers then went to the Godavari and, after bathing in the river, offered its sacred water to Jatayu's departed soul. When the ritual was complete, Ram and Lakshman felt pleased, knowing that Jatayu had gone to the divine regions of unending happiness. They fixed their minds on recovering Sita. Going in a southerly direction, they entered the deep forest, appearing like Vishnu and Indra going out to encounter the Asuras. So here's another B.G. Sharma painting. And there's Jatayu and their oblations and the Godavari River in the background. And this is the final slide. It's a painting of the soul of Jatayu transforming into a Vishnu form and ascending to the spiritual world. So Jatayu's departure is our topic. And lesson, right up to the last breath. It was said when he went flying to protect Sita, he was just calling Ram's name again and again and again. And his parting good fortune, on one hand, good fortune was seeing the form of Lord Ramachandra and getting the blessings of Lord Ramachandra and giving, the same Atma-nivedana, giving his life for the service of Ram. Now, that didn't make Ram feel good, that he was chopped like this by Ravana, but at the same time, so much appreciating the service that was rendered, giving himself completely to Ram's service. Before that, giving himself so much to Dasarath's service. So a perfectly virtuous life, even as Ram said, even in a lower species. Remarkable. So Jatayu is a great soul, great devotee of the Lord, and achieving the ultimate destination at the end of his life, even in a vulture form, from a vulture form. So service is the thing. Service with love and devotion. And that's it for our Lessons of Ramayana series. There's many more lessons, maybe another time, another set of lessons. We'll see how that goes. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yes?
Maharaj, how do we understand from so many months? We get the flow, Vishnu Parvat, the help of Vana, Kirvali, then the Chaturmas, but how do we, what's the logical reason, I guess, Lord Rama took so much time?
Well, the logical reason was that he had to be back before the 14 years was over, because Bharata was going to give up his life if he didn't. So the clock was ticking, but it was ready after he killed Ravana. And then he win Pushpaka Vimana. I mean, you're asking for a logical reason. There's a Leela reason. But the logical reason was the bell was going to ring after 14 years. And so he timed it perfectly. That's a logical reason. And the otherwise is Leela. Because there are many others that got an opportunity to render some service. And, you know, the battle, so finding Sita was part of it, and then regaining Sita was another part of it. And so it's just part of the drama. No, that's the Leela of recovering Sita, and then there's layers and layers and layers and layers. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he can do anything without any time at all. But when one is a wayward entity like you and me, it may take a while for us, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to reclaim us. It took a while to reclaim Sita. Now she was deeply repentant, for sure, but she had made some mistakes. And she was part of the Leela of the Supreme Lord of feeling separation, her from Ram, and Ram from her. So there's layers and layers and layers of things going on. So he didn't need anyone's help to find Sita, etc. It's the Leela in giving people some service to do.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Did Sita realize that besides Lakshman warning, that she has to undergo this whole thing, right? Did Sita realize at any time that I would have listened to Lakshmana? That not to.
Are you asking? Did she regret it later?
Yeah.
Is that what your question is?
Yes.
Well, there's no statement in Ramayana that I'm aware of that she regretted it later, but I bet she regretted it later. Why didn't I listen? And I said these bad things, and etc. So likely, when you make a mistake, even us, we make a mistake. We say, "Oh boy, that was really a mistake." But so there's no statements that I'm aware of that she made to herself or to others. Why did I do this? I'm so regretful. I did the wrong thing. I said the wrong thing. There are no verses in Ramayana that I'm aware, but just common sense that she felt those things.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. So I don't remember I heard it or read it or somewhere I saw it, that before going to Banavas, Sri Ram protected Sita with fire god, and then they went to forest, taking the Mother Sita's replica. So otherwise, it's no way that anyone can touch Mother Sita, even Ravana. So
could you move your head, this young man? Yeah, you got it. Okay, thanks. So I just eye contact. Thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah. So can you please? Is it true or I mean?
This question was asked before, and three things. It's not, what you said is not in Valmiki Ramayana. Second thing is, it was confirmed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that a false Sita was stolen, and then he found Kurma Purana and brought it back to the Brahmana who was a Ram Bhakta and said, see, here it is in the Puranas, Kurma Purana says it was a false Sita. So don't lament. So that's a version that's different than Valmiki Ramayana. It's not a Ramayana, it's a Purana. But the pastime of Ramachandra is described in many places, including multiple Puranas and multiple Ramayanas. And some of them are really far out. So you can find, like, not almost anything, but you can find lots of things. So, is it true? Which was your question. Well, it's not in Valmiki Ramayana. On the other hand, there's different days of Brahma. You know the phrase, Kalpa Beda? Kalpa Beda, different days of Brahma. So in different days of Brahma, there are different appearances of Lord Ramachandra. And the different appearances of Lord Ramachandra may be a little bit like this and a little bit like that differ from what Valmiki wrote. So, do we accept them? Yes. Are they the same day of Brahma as what Valmiki described? Not. Or that Valmiki just overlooked some detail? That's a possibility, but that's a pretty not nice speculation. It's possible. The more common understanding is Kalpa Beda. In some versions of, at least in Kurma Purana, it's confirmed. Maya Sita. And so in that version, similarly, when Sita is put to test in fire, Agni comes, you've seen the painting, Agni comes out of the fire holding Sita in his arms. So the Maya Sita was put into the fire, and the real Sita was brought forth by Agni, because just at the time that she was kidnapped is when Agni came and did a switcheroo. A false Sita was taken by Ravana. But you can read about that. There was a little document that was sent around, and you can read about it because it's in Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Thank you, Ma.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for that amazing session on Ramayan. So Maharaj, I was thinking after Dashera, Diwali is celebrated after 14 days. And then I was reading somewhere that if we check on Google Map, it takes 14 days to walk from...
Yeah, but he didn't walk.
But, I mean to ask two questions. Is there any correlation in Valmiki Ramayan that there's like the whole Sena of Lord Ram walked from there, but Lord Ram, they went...
Come on. Didn't walk.
So then another question is, why do we celebrate Dashera after like 14 days?
Why
do we have
not?
that? Like, is there any significance?
It's you know, the 14-day custom I'm unaware of. What I'm aware of is Diwali Day. The 14 days I'm not aware of. So you have to ask Mr. Google, he'll know. But I know what Valmiki Ramayana says.
Not 14. Plus that Purnima, then Amavasya.
Whatever the number is, I only know about Diwali.
Thank you.
And you know, the Puranic people that know this version, that version, the other version, you ask them. I don't know why there's some number of days that some celebration. I know about Diwali.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful sessions. So my question is not very well formed, but it's just like I'm trying to understand something, so I'll just try to get at it. So basically, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we're very focused on Krishna's pastimes, especially Krishna and Vrindavan. And those pastimes are very sweet. Now the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra are also very sweet, and lots of great devotees, lots of great interactions there, stuff we can learn from. But also there is some sort of like difference in mood that's quite stark.
Yeah.
It's almost like I can kind of similar like a culture shock type feeling, like we're used to seeing our Lord Krishna acting in a certain way, and then we see Lord Ramachandra, who's the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there's just like the sort of Kshatriya sort of interactions going on, and just it's like very like regal. It's just difference in mood. So as devotees, both of them are our worshipful Lord. How do we sort of navigate? Again, like there's no logical contradiction, so I'm not saying that there's any sort of logical problem with that. I'm just saying, how do we, because then like there's that some sort of culture shock type when we think about that. Or it's just, yeah, that's why and that's a wrong word, but I'm just trying to understand how
Yeah, that's the wrong word.
so definitely a wrong word, but
There's diversity. There's a really simple starting point to keep it really, really, really simple. Within the source of everything is everything.
yeah.
And the all attractiveness of Krishna, which means the all attractive, there's everything. And so there's this, and there's that, and there's the other, and there's the other. That's principle based. And then comes, statements of scripture that Balaram is the first expansion, and then there's descriptions that say that of the various other expansions, Ram and Nrsimha are exhibiting more the fullness of the source of everything than the other avatars. And there's sort of, details and details, but the principle, aside from the detail, is within the source of everything is everything. And so one of his expansions can have this mood, another can have that mood, another can have another mood. I mean, the mood of Lord Nrsimha is a different mood. But, Nrsimha and Ram are super excellent forms of the Lord, according to scripture, and Rupa Goswami goes into it in Bhagavat Sandarbha, in describing Bhagavan, their features and aspects of Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is everything, and they're aspects of everything, of that which is everything. And the full repository is in the form of Krishna. So, read Jiva Goswami and you'll get it, more complete, detailed picture how it works. It's moods. Just like the different planets. There's moods in different planets. Different excellences, different predominance of something or something else. And then there's the fluidity even within that realm. Like within Ram's Leela, sometimes his mood, and sometimes his mood, and sometimes another mood. But he's always the supreme. Sometimes he laments. Sometimes he's almighty and powerful. So there's diversity. I see a hand, but there's someone before you. So pass the microphone back. Put your hand up so they give you the microphone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. I was reflecting on Lord Ram's mood when he started the search for Mother Sita. What are some important lessons that we can learn from
the mood of love and separation? And he it's big time. He becomes delirious. Now, there's one of the opulences of Bhagavan is renunciation. So it's not renunciation got buried somewhere and he becomes materially attached. It's another variety of his loving mood that's over the top, intense. The intense love for Sita. Krishna would sometimes become like that in separation from Radha. You just start going in, to speak of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the mood of Radha in love for Krishna in separation. So, it's a mood. And he's allowed. And it's transcendental. There's no tinge of anything, no touch of anything material. So that's what a spiritual mood of love and separation may look like. It can look differently too, but it may look like that. Does that address your question?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
And I was hoping there would be a session on Bharat.
Say it slower. So what?
And I was hoping there would be a session on Bharat.
What about Bharat?
He
He was hoping there would be a session on Bharat.
No, we're
Not
done.
this time.
The bell rang, sorry.
Maybe next time, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Another time.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. A clarification question. I think I heard that you mentioned when Sita was kidnapped and Jatayu was harmed, and when Lord Rama saw Jatayu, he initially didn't know that it is Jatayu, and
Well,
then
that's what in Valmiki Ramayana, we read what's written. He saw, Rakshasa got his arrow ready. Then he got closer and he saw who it was.
okay, because I have heard it otherwise, and I know there are many versions of Ramayana.
That's why there's
yeah.
discrepancy. One can get spun out.
Yeah. People always question that how can Ram, try to kill Jatayu, knowing that Jatayu was there to save her. But yes, that's what I wanted to confirm.
Okay, so then Valmiki Ramayana provides the answer.
Thank you.
Now, then one might say, wait a minute, isn't he all-knowing? Wait a minute, doesn't he have senses that are not imperfect, like we have imperfect senses? We can't see what's what, and then later he does some focusing in, and now we can see. So he's behaving like he's immortal, although he's not. And that's Leela. Now, one who is not a devotee can go, oh, come on, you guys. Just get out your whitewash brush and paint it, Leela. Phooey on you guys. So, that means there's no taste of the subtleties of loving dealings and the moods of loving expression. But what's important for us as devotees is a question that was asked earlier. How do we know, whether something, this was your question, how do we know where there's something that's a realization of some great personality? Is it fiction or is it real? Or do we accept it as real? Something like that was your question. Was that your question or not? Who's, no, yeah. Who was asking? No, it was you, wasn't you? Okay. Okay. Just see how bad my memory is. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much. Maharaj, I have you said this morning as well that Vibhishan is as dear to me as Sita.
I didn't say.
We heard from your lecture
Yeah,
where
Ram
you were
said.
quoting Lord Ram.
At different times he says things like that. He says they switch places.
And today also Lord Ram was saying that Jatayu is as dear to me as Sita.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to sort of understand from the Gaudiya Vaishnava perspective. I was just mentally scanning before Lord Chaitanya came. In our Gaudiya Vaishnava understanding, we have this gradation among devotees as well, like Nectar of Instruction, verse number 10, has this wonderful gradation of devotees. Before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or even in Srimad Bhagavatam, do we see this gradation among devotees and the sort of the deepening of the rasas?
That's how we see it. There's others that see it otherwise.
So before that, or in Ramayan or other places, is that concept present, or is that unique to our sampradaya?
I'll say same thing again. In different traditions, different sampradayas, are different ways of seeing gradations. One way, our way, one of the ways is through intensity of love of rasa. then in our same disciplic succession line is Madhvacharya, he has a whole other hierarchy. It's a whole other, it's like, what? But then he has a whole other hierarchy, and that's in our own same line. So I don't know the details of other lines, but they have gradation, and the lens through which they look at is according to their disciplic line. It's just common sense, but what's the metric that they use for in different traditions? I don't know.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So you have more?
No.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Jatayu and Hanuman and a lot of other great personalities, not only in Ramayan but in Srimad Bhagavatam, are not of a human form. But we often mention, like in Bhagavad Gita, it's mentioned that, like human form is like the most optimal form of life for advancing in devotional service.
Yeah.
So, just from like, can we assume that, I mean, these animals have received either special mercy from Krishna, or their descendants from spiritual world who assist in Krishna's path?
No, it's special mercy. I mean, aside from the story of the dog that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered and was chanting Krishna's name by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, because he had received the mercy of Shivananda Sain prior to that. Shivananda Sain treated him with dignity and respect. And so he became the recipient of Shivananda Sain's mercy. But it's special mercy. It's not, past life. All of that is exceptional. And then there's the rule. And what you recited is the rule. Human form of life, Prabhupada would say, you can't invite all the dogs in the neighborhood to come here and have a discussion on Ramayana. That's not the capacity of dogs or other than human form of life. So can other than human form of life exhibit behaviors that are devotional? Definitely. It's rare, but definitely. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question.
Kind of.
I mean,
you got something else going on.
No, it's like all of these non-human forms have all been an direct association of Krishna.
Well, they got mercy. However they got there, they got mercy. Let me tell you a little story. Maybe you'll be happy just to hear this other story. You'll forget your question. For a while, for several years, I was teaching in Vrindavan at the VIHE during the whole month of Kartik. And during a month, there's 2 Ekadasis every month. And so it was a practice that the devotees from many devotees from Krishna Balaram Mandir, on the morning of Ekadasi, right after Mangal Arti, we would get together and go out the front gate, make a right-hand turn, and go around the Vrindavan Parikrama path. The Vrindavan Parikrama path is just down the street, a short distance, a few hundred yards, and then you make a right-hand turn. You're on the Parikrama path that goes all around Vrindavan. And I saw it twice that month. There was a dog that waited by the gate every morning right after Mangal Arti on Ekadasis. And when the devotees came, he paid obeisances. And then he led the devotees going out front, because there are street dogs, dogs that don't have homes. They don't have somebody protecting them. So they're dangerous. So he was the guard dog. And he would, with his tail wagging, he knew exactly where those places were. And we knew ahead of time, because the hair on the back of his neck went up, and he raised his head, and they would bark because they knew we were coming, and he would bark back. So there was this one place, particularly at the far end, the southernmost part of that Vrindavan Parikrama mark, and there was a bunch of dogs in an abandoned building. I don't know what's there now, but abandoned building, and there was like 5 of those guys. And you're in my territory, woof, woof, woof. So the dog, our guard dog, he went out and showed his teeth, look at these teeth, and growled and, walked alongside us till we passed, and then he wagged his tail and, off we went. And when we reached back at the gate, he paid his obeisances. Now, who was that dog in his previous life? Not likely that he learned that, from 0 to 10 in that life, but whoever he was in his previous life, he's continuing in this life, and even in the dog form. So it's a little bit like, Bharat Maharaj becoming a deer and still retaining his devotional mood. So this dog was like that. And Shivananda Sain's dog. There's no indication that he was like his past life, but that he got mercy. So that's the criterion. It's the exception, and the exception is if someone somehow, just this morning, I heard Prabhupada saying in London in a conversation, even dogs, and he said, I've seen it. So I saw it also in Vrindavan. More human than some humans.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. You get the last question.
Thank you, Guruji, for this
Hare
session.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. My question was about reincarnation.
About reincarnation?
Yeah.
Okay.
How, from Ramayan, the transition to even in the Bhagavad Gita, how we have Ram and then we have Krishna, we have Lakshman and then we have Balram. In the same way, how Sita is sort of like Lakshmi's roop. I just wanted to ask if Rukmani was Lakshmi Devi or if Radha was Lakshmi.
Well, 2 things. I'm not sure what you're asking, but if I've understood correctly, I'm not sure I've understood correctly. To use the term reincarnation is not appropriate for the forms of the Lord and the associates of the Lord. There are different expansions, and then those different expansions, they're not reincarnations, it's just a manifestation of this expansion or that one. And then there's Shakti, that's the companion of the form of the Lord, Shaktiman and Shakti. So there are different expansions or manifestations of forms of the Lord, but not reincarnation is not the right term for that. And the second is, according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's references, a series of references, that Radharani is just as Krishna is the original source of all forms of the Lord. You know the verse from the Bhagavatam, right? Eti changsa kala pungsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Are you familiar with that one? No. In Canto 1, Chapter 3, the first half of Chapter 3 is an answer to one of the questions asked by the sages at the beginning of Canto 1, Chapter 1. And one of those 6 questions was, please describe the forms of the Lord as they appear in this world. So Chapter 3 begins doing exactly that. There's a listing, starts with Vishnu forms, etc., then Leela forms and other forms. And then after listing them, including in that list is Krishna, there's a verse, it's 1.3.28. Someone, Snehavali, look it up. I think it's 28, so you can check it later. But in that verse, although Krishna is listed as an avatar of Vishnu, which people often say, Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu, which is true, but Krishna is the source of Vishnu. And so Krishna, who's the source of Vishnu, appears as an avatar of Vishnu. So one amongst them, Krishna is to Bhagavan Swayam. Bhagavan Swayam means Swayam. He's the original Bhagavan. So Krishna is the original Bhagavan from whom all Vishnu and other expansions come. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, similarly, it says, all expansions of the Shakti of Bhagavan are expansions of Radha. All the queens in Dwaraka, all the gopis in Vrindavan, all the goddesses of fortune, the associates of Narayan in Vaikuntha, and Sita, they're all expansions of the original. As Krishna is the original from whom all expansions of Bhagavan come, so Radha is the original from whom all Shaktis of Bhagavan arise or are manifest or from. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. 1:328. So you can look it up later if you like. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj ki jai. I think we all want to thank Maharaj for allowing us to be absorbed in Ram Leela and getting some fraction of the mood of the eternal associates of Sri Ramchandraji. I had a chance a little bit and with Maharaj staying at the residence of Shri Shrinitai Gaurasundar, how Maharaj was totally absorbed in preparing for these discussions or presentations, and then very diligently investigating into questions for which the answers required some research, non-stop, 24 hours a day. We should pray for such absorption in Krishna Leela, Ram Leela. So thank you, Maharaj, for demonstrating by your personal example the importance of this. Yes.
Except sitting by the door.
So to continue the rasa a little bit more, Maharaj, the request of Vedakta Mada Prabhu and Kirtida Mataji is, this marks the exact 1-year anniversary from when you welcomed their deities into this residence, and they were hoping that you could cut the 1-year anniversary cake.
1-year anniversary cake.
Haribo. So, do you want to bring the cake here and then we create a path? So if devotees, the room is long and narrow, so my advice is go that way as much as you can. And so create a space. Madhusudan Prabhu?